let's try this. That may be a little better. Would you please, on the console, raise your hand? Use the hand tool to raise your hand and let me know that you can hear me. Thank you, Pamela. Terrence, appreciate that. I apologize. I had myself muted, so I apologize for that. I'm not going to go back over what I just went through, although you probably saw the slides about constant contact, and I'd just like to welcome you today. So we're going to move into the presentation, and I appreciate your patience. The interesting thing about email marketing, like most other marketing, is that first impressions really matter. When somebody opens your email, obviously what they see is going to determine what they do next, and you want them to do something or you wouldn't have sent the message to them. Chances are you want them to read your newsletter or announcements, take a next step of some kind, like visit your website, register for an event, donate to your nonprofit, and I believe we have some nonprofits on the call today. Or you may have a new product that you would like them to try. This is where a beautiful, professional-looking email designed to drive action is critical. People make snap judgments about whether or not to read your emails based on a very quick glance, and think about the way that you make decisions on which ones to read or not. It's exactly the same way. We all get a lot of email. In fact, I get too much email, so we have to go sort through it. We chose an email, give it about a 2-second glance, and if it's worth our time, we'll go ahead and read it. Otherwise, we hit the delete key and send that email to our trash folder. We don't want that to happen to our email. I want to show you the difference between a regular email from maybe Outlook or Gmail or Yahoo and one sent through an email service provider like Constant Contact. An email from a service provider looks a lot better, I think you would agree, and gets you noticed. Obviously, that's the one on the right. You can use it to feature your brand in colors and include graphics that capture your reader's attention, and all of this, including graphics, comprise email content. With a combination of text and great images, you'll get through to your audience. And from a purely legal and practical perspective, an email service provider, as opposed to an internet service provider, will help protect your messages from being considered spam. You can also get more email delivered to your customers and prospects' inboxes using an email service provider because the delivery percentage is much higher. So for all those reasons I've listed, I want you to understand that you really need to use an email service provider to do email marketing the correct and effective way. And I appreciate the fact that a majority of those that are on the call are already Constant Contact customers. On behalf of Constant Contact, I appreciate your business. Check out the email on the right. The colors and the graphics make that message very eye-catching and more professional looking than the one on the left. It also makes the call to action, which is the button that says visit our website, much more obvious, and that's what we're after at the end of the day with our email marketing is actions. So email marketing defined at its base level is delivering professional email communications to an interested audience containing information the recipients find valuable. That's the recipients find valuable. That looks great in any inbox. That's email marketing. Email marketing can do a lot of things for your business. It can boost repeat business. It can create and increase awareness. It can drive revenue and profit. All of those things, obviously, we want to do in our businesses today. By the end of this webinar today, you'll be armed with the strategies and tactics to help you harness the power of the inbox and really use email marketing as a way to grow your businesses. Are you ready? Let's go. Here's what we're going to be talking about today: why email marketing, harnessing the power of the inbox, and several subtopics under that. And finally, putting it all together, we'll take a look at an email and look at each of the different components so that you can use it as a checklist for creating your professional email messages in the future. Again, ask questions as we go along and put them in the question box, and we'll get to them at the end of the webinar today. So let's start out with a quick review of why it is that we want to do email marketing in the first place. Since we're talking about email marketing, probably the answer to this question is pretty obvious. The number one application on cell phones is email. More than half of all the emails in the world are opened on a mobile device. Last statistic I saw was 65%, up from 51% a couple of years ago. Another interesting fact is that more people own a cell phone, therefore read it on their mobile device, than own a toothbrush. I found this kind of hard to believe, but if you go look at Litmus, which is the source down in the lower left-hand corner, you will find those statistics. So why use email? Well, it just works. People read it. It's everywhere they are. 88% regularly check email on their smartphones, and that's even more than social media or other videos. 91% check their email daily. If you're like me, I check mine multiple times a day. The thing about email is it's extremely reliable. It gets delivered over 90% of the time, assuming you're using an email service provider. Facebook posts and other social media posts just reach 2% of those you send them to. It's not that they don't reach more. In fact, they probably reach near 100%, but only 2% of those that you send them to actually see that Facebook post. So email, very reliable. And again, email works. How would you like to have something that you invested $1 and got $44.25 back? You can do that with email marketing. It's really hard to beat as a marketing medium. Doesn't say that regular email doesn't work in some ways, but it doesn't work as well because a limited number of emails can be sent at once most of the time with regular email. I know my local service provider here, if you get over about 100 that you're sending out at once, then they not only bounce the email, but you may get noted or blacklisted as a spammer. As you see in the email on the right, there's very little formatting control. The fact that you break up your lists into the way that they are here, they're more susceptible to filters that block email. There's no branding, although with Outlook you can put graphics and other information in the footer of the email, and I do that most of the time. Potential spam complaints because they're coming from this kind of a sender, and probably what I think is the most important, there's no way to track and report on the results of your email. Keep in mind that if you're not able to track and get reports on your email, you're really not marketing. You're just throwing things out and hope people will read them. Email marketing also helps automate best practices for you and really makes you look good. I always like to look at that last email on the right there, compared with these. Which would you rather send out? Something that provides a beautiful mobile responsive and mobile friendly, easy to use template base? These kinds of emails reinforce your brand identity and the other things that are listed here. Using an email service provider like Constant Contact, you're able to do this level of professional email marketing. So we've talked about why email marketing. Now let's talk about harnessing the power of that email, and we're going to start with growing a healthy list. Growing your list is all about how and where you ask. And yes, you have to ask. Constant Contact, along with other professional email service providers, are permission-based services. Permission-based services. You have to have some relationship to those that you're sending to, and if you do not, then all you're doing is spam. And that is, believe it or not, against the law. So there are lots of different ways to ask. And again, permission is the basis for the kinds of email contacts, email addresses that you will want to send out. It's a critical part of email marketing. And as we'll see, there's legislation in place in the United States and in Canada that governs how we can email customers and prospects. Ask for permission at all the touch points in your sales process, which of course could be a checkbox when someone is buying from your website, or perhaps simply asking a question in a face-to-face interaction when you get somebody's business card, perhaps. When you ask for permission, take advantage of that opportunity to set a couple of expectations. You can tell people how often you'll be in their inbox and also the type of content they should expect. If you do this well and follow through with that, you'll have much more success. Make sure you have an option to let your customers or your contacts unsubscribe, that is, opt out, in every email that you send. Remember that one of the big advantages of using an email service provider is that the unsubscribe functionality is automated for you. Why would you want to offer someone the ability to unsubscribe? One, that'll keep you compliant with the laws in place. The other is you don't want to keep sending things to people who are not interested in what you're sending. Post your privacy policy. That's a great way to set your contacts or potential contacts at ease when they're joining your contact list. It helps them feel their data is protected. And again, this is something that email service providers specialize in. Treat your subscribers like you would like to be treated in an email relationship. Make sure that you aren't emailing too often. Again, if you set good expectations and deliver value, this part is really easy. And last but not least, follow compliance guidelines. In the U.S., we call that the CAN-SPAM Act, and it's CASL in Canada, with these particular pieces involved in that. One of the best ways to get someone to subscribe is a dedicated area on your web page or a standalone page on your website that states the reasons why someone would want to subscribe to your list. Tell them what's in it for them, that is the value of joining your email list. Example we're going to look at here is from Mark Michelet of Building Aspirations. He's an email marketing expert and offers consulting services to small businesses like mine and like yours, as a matter of fact. He offers a way to subscribe to his mailing list on a few different pages on his website, and also has a freestanding page, shown here, dedicated to reasons someone should subscribe to his email list. He offers an incentive, which is a video series using automation emails on the topic of how a small business can market on a budget and make money. He sends a link to this video in his welcome email that all subscribers get after subscribing to his list. If you can offer an incentive to join, such as a coupon, maybe a digital download of a guide or a worksheet or an ebook, something you've put together, even a video series, do that here. You can also ask your web developer to build you a page on that blog or website with these reasons why one should join your email list. You can do the same thing on Facebook. Besides, Mike has set up an automated series of emails with something short and sweet offered in his messages. When a new subscriber receives his welcome message and later this automated messages in sequence, they've had a positive experience watching the previous week's video or reading his messages, so are more apt to open the next one to see what's inside. Our next webinar, as a matter of fact, on April the 19th, is about automating your marketing using email automation. Mike does what he does because this business has established itself as an authority on how to make marketing more feasible for small business owner, and that subscriber is more likely to purchase his service because they have more information now to make an informed decision to purchase that service. He's not just sending out messages that say, buy now. He's taking the time to build a relationship through a sequence of email messages with valuable content. Lots of places where to ask and get email contacts or email addresses. This is just a few. Collect email addresses at events. You've all been to events, and hopefully they ask for an email address, some of your contact information. You can use QR codes, and if you're not familiar with QR codes, it's those as pictured here, the square graphics. It's a two-dimensional barcode, basically. Say a square graphic with other squares in it that when scanned can ask for their contact information. You can use a sandwich board on a sidewalk. Now, most of us don't have sidewalks and sandwich boards. I don't. I use magnetics on my company automobile and other stickers on my automobile, which offer incentives to subscribe or join an email list. Speaking engagements, great place. A lot of times we have paper products that we hand out at different events and could have, again, a QR code. Or even if you have a restaurant, you could put a sign-up form on the bill or in a check presenter when you provide that information to one of your people who come into your restaurant or your store. And don't forget tried and true ways like fish bowls to collect business cards at a checkout or even at an event. They really work. But the key point here is just ask people for their information. If you give them some valuable reason to do that, then I've never had a problem collecting email addresses in that way. But the key point, besides asking, is to give them a reason to join your list. I don't want to be on everybody's email list and have to unsubscribe. I want to join email lists where there is relevant and valuable information that I want to get. Maybe the incentive that you provide is ongoing education information. Maybe a VIP preference. That's what our VIP club is all about, is VIP preference. Insider news, an ebook, white paper, some guide of some kind, updates on your mission or your activities, friends and family discounts if you do things like that. Give them some reason to join your list. Keep in mind that the number one reason that people unsubscribe from a list is irrelevant contact or information that is sent too often. We'll talk about frequency here again in a minute. Creating great content. Content probably the biggest hurdle most people have in creating email. For me, I don't have a difficulty with that, but a lot of people don't know what to say. Thing to think about when you're creating content is to not think about yourself, but think about those who you're presenting information to. It's about what you know or what you have access to. Focus on being relevant. Figure out how much is enough. Turn questions into content. And don't forget that images are content too. We're going to talk about these 4 topics which make it really easy to develop content. Remember, when you're thinking of content that you'll create from scratch, that you're not writing for yourself. You're writing for your audience. So make your messages relevant, make them short, and focused. Your email shouldn't be telling recipients every single thing that you do. It shouldn't include extraneous information. And you can make it relevant to your audience by thinking about the conversations you've had with your clients or customers or members after an interaction, and you may want to jot down some ideas when you have those kinds of interactions that you can expand on later as a topic. This example here shows a series of people who are interested in dogs, and they get an email that talks about dogs. Sending these folks information about cats would not be very relevant and would waste their time and may get you a lot of unsubscribes. People interact with email the way they do in a physical world. They're not deciding whether to open your email, they're deciding on whether or not to delete it. I'm going to read that again. They're not deciding whether to open your email, they're deciding whether or not to delete it. What's going to stop them from hitting that delete key? Immediate relevance. I've mentioned relevance a few times, and here's why it's important that you include content that's for your audience and not for yourself. 38% unsubscribe if it's boring. 32% send it to spam if it's irrelevant, or they simply block you from receiving your emails in the future. So how much is enough? Constant Contact has done a lot of studies on how much is enough in emails. How long should they be? What should they contain? And here's some real simple guidelines, and it'll make your life a lot easier when you're putting content into your emails. Here is the guideline. Less is more. 20 lines of text or less is enough. 3 pictures or less is enough. 20 lines of text, 3 pictures or less. Think of it that way, and don't make your emails longer than that, even if the information is relevant. If you're like me, I don't like to get an email that has 5 or 6 different things in it that I need to figure out which one I want to look at. 20 lines of text, 3 pictures, that's sufficient. If you have detailed information, and let's say, as in this example, there's 3 things, 3 different subjects. If there's a lot of detail that you want to give somebody about those, create a link that goes to a PDF or to a web page or to your Facebook page that has the detail. Don't put it in your email that you send out. 20 lines, 3 pictures, that's sufficient. So let's talk about turning your interactions with your customers, clients, members, supporters, and volunteers into content for your email. Think about it for a second. maybe the last time that you had an interaction with someone at your organization and with your one of your customers. What kind of questions did they ask? What information were they looking for, whether you're a for-profit or non-profit? Can you turn an answer to that question into an email? Here are some great examples. One easy way to practice this in real life, very similar to what you see on the screen, is to create two columns with the questions that are regularly asked on the left, and in the right column, writing down a way you can turn the answers to those questions into email full of fresh and relevant content. As a matter of fact, and this might be a relief for some of those suffering from writer's block, great content doesn't have to be written at all. Visual content like photos, videos, graphics, and word images, and you've seen a lot of infographics as well, make a huge impact in the email inbox. 90% of information processed by the brain is visual, and more than half of consumers believe that images are a very important factor when buying. Visuals are important to your business because they influence customers' purchasing decisions. About 67% of consumers from Constant Contact studies believe that images are a very important factor when selecting and purchasing a product. Selecting and purchasing your products. You can use photos to show off your products or shots from recent events, link videos and show your organization in action, word images, brief phrase, statistic, or a quote over a background image are really a great way to share information in an eye-catching way. And this slide is a perfect example of doing just that. I like the I'm sure many of you like chocolate maybe almost as much as I do. And this visual content used to be pretty difficult to create, but today with a smartphone with which you can shoot high quality photos and video, makes it a lot easier. There are a lot of free online capabilities or downloadable capabilities to edit those photos or edit the videos that make it very easy to make them look very professional. The concept here is to communicate through images. You've heard that a picture is worth 1,000 words, and in your email you can communicate through images as well as text. Turn your images into clickable links. This is a key point in email marketing with graphics. Associate a link with that image so that if someone clicks on it, they put their cursor on it, it turns into a pointing finger, they can click on it, and it goes to a relevant destination. Try to avoid giving too many choices in your campaigns. These are supposed to be quick decisions to act. You're asking for them to take some specific action. Fewer choices will reduce the number of decisions or actions a person can take. It's a time limit kind of a thing. Think of your campaign as window shopping. You want to entice someone to come in right then and buy or take advantage of whatever it is that you have to offer because you have their attention. So take advantage of it. The example here shows one choice. Click here to view. It's either a yes or a no. If there were 6 things to make a decision about, they would more than likely, studies show, not make any decision at all. Photos are frequently seen in email communications, and it's a necessary piece now of most of social media communications as well as email. Sometimes you might need a photo that you don't have or can't create on your own, and there's a variety of online stock photo sites where you can search for just the right photo that fits your needs. The points on the left here are very well taken. Choose the right size, look at them, and see if they are visually appealing to you. Too big, too small. Make sure that you have the right to use a particular photo, and use your own photos or stock images. Those of you who are Constant Contact customers or future Constant Contact customers know that you have access to over 12 million images through our editor. Some are free, some are paid, but all are extremely high quality photos, much like the ones that are shown here. And there are other places that you can get photos as well. The ones on Constant Contact come from Big Stock, but there are stockvalue.net, freeimages.com also that provide great high resolution photos, banners, and other things that you can use in your communications to emphasize or underscore those messages that you are trying to get across. So let's talk about creating that beautiful mobile-friendly email that matches your brand. Mobile-friendly and mobile-responsive email, what does that mean? Today, since so many people are looking at websites and email on smartphones, they have to be readable in both places, desktop and smartphone. A mobile responsive email template, and you should start with a template, that makes it easier to create them, reconfigures or resizes your content that you see on your desktop into something that is readable on a smartphone or a tablet. When you create an email, it's always a great idea to send yourself a copy of the email first and check it out on a smaller screen to make sure it looks right. Just because it's mobile responsive doesn't mean it's mobile friendly. Mobile friendly has to do with the size and placement of the content, the type of font that you're using, and the size of the letters so that they're easily readable. So make sure it's not only mobile responsive, but mobile friendly as well. And all of the current templates in Constant Contact that you'll use are both mobile responsive and mobile friendly. Make sure that when you're doing your emails that you use a consistent brand. Being recognizable is critical to your success in email marketing. So make sure that your emails look like your website and your Facebook page and your printed material from a logo and color perspective. And we'll take a look at these in a little bit more detail. Selecting a template is relatively easy, but you have to keep in mind what the purpose of the template is and the message. There's lots of different kinds of templates and different kinds of messages. Primarily, your email messages are either newsletters, announcements, or promotion. So the key point here is to select a template that matches what you're trying to do and the frequency that you'll be sending out. Keep in mind, and these, although you don't see all of them, have the same guidelines before: 20 lines of text, 3 or fewer images. That's sufficient. You don't need to inundate anyone with a ton of content. In your email, make sure that you're consistently using your logo and colors that you use in the rest of your marketing so that you're immediately recognized. Use great images of your business, your products, your people, especially your people, so that your audience can easily connect what your organization does with who you are. We'll talk more about images in a little bit. And make sure you're using consistent language across your marketing, that the same words and same tone so that people will not be confused when they read it. An example here is the nonprofit Strong Women, Strong Girls. They do a great job of being consistent with their logo and images across their email, website, and Facebook page. Don't be afraid to use the same content and images across all of these different venues: email, website, social media posts. The more your organization meets your audience where they are, the more likely your audience is to keep you in mind. Getting your email opened is extremely important. So how do we do that? How do we get our communications opened by those who receive them? Pretty easy, simple recipe for success as far as getting your email opened. Use single column templates. That's mobile responsive, mobile friendly templates. Fewer than 3 images, fewer than 20 lines of text, no more than 3 to 5 links, and your call to action needs to be above the scroll line. In print newspaper, we used to call that above the fold. Now it's above the scroll, above the scroll. This is these guidelines right here are based on Constant Contact's analysis of over 2 million Constant Contact customer emails. This is the recipe for the most effective email campaign. And again, we're repeating the fact: 20 lines of text, 3 or fewer images, adding a couple of things here, no more than 3 to 5 links. So number 2, 3, and 4 are extremely important. And the last, the action above the scroll line, you got to do that. People may not scroll down to see where your call to action is if you don't. Give people multiple reasons to pay attention. Who sent it? Is it worth reading? When was it received? Can I send it to friends? Let's look at these in a little bit more detail. So how do you win this battle of priorities? What priorities are those? That's whether you read something now, read it later, or never read it. You do this every time that you look at your emails, and those that you send them to do exactly the same thing. Do I read it now? Do I read it later, which is really never? Or do I really never read it? You need to get more people to stop and open your email. Think about how you sort your own email, or if you're on Facebook, think about the news feed. Typically when you open up your email, and I asked this question live, and I'm going to ask it now, how many of you opened and looked at email prior to brushing your teeth this morning? Let me see a show of hands. Anybody want to raise their hand? Anybody want to admit to reading their email before they even brushed their teeth this morning? All right, thank you. Well, you want to, again, win that battle of the priorities, now, later, or never, by giving people information that they want to see. And the first thing that they use to prioritize which ones of those emails that they're going to open is to look and see who it came from. So you do need to exercise care and consider how you're identifying yourself across the channels that you're using. If you send your email to as Jane Doe, but on your Facebook page you show up in the people's news feed as Famous Cookies, people might not make that connection. Just be sure that you're consistent in the name that you use, and ensure that it's one that you'll be recognized by, so that ultimately your readers and followers will stop and open your email, read your posts, because they know they're going to get something of value and relevance from you. If you get an email from me, normally what you'll see is it's from Tom Murphy, Mercon-Murphy Consulting Inc., because that's the 3 ways that people normally know me. What about your subject line? As a small business, you don't have time to do things that don't work, so when it comes to your subject line, you want to get into the habit of optimizing that subject line to get the best results possible for your marketing efforts every time. I'm going to show you some ways that you can do that today. About 1/3 of people decide to open an email based solely on the subject line. So the subject line needs to be a standout subject line, whether they're reading on a desktop computer or a smartphone or a tablet. One of our upcoming webinars is going to be about standout subject lines. There's a lot of competition for your attention these days in your inbox, but after today's webinar, you'll have some tricks and tips so that you can start to use on your next email campaign. After a few campaigns of implementing what I'm going to show you here today, you'll be a pro at getting real, measurable results for your marketing efforts. People need to decide, is it worth really reading? Subject lines have to fulfill a purpose and need to entice your readers. One thing to keep in mind, and a principle that you might want to write down, is the 2-2-2 principle. The 2-2-2 principle. I'm going to go back to this slide again. The 2-2-2 principle simply states that people make a decision in the first 2 seconds, the emphasis being on the first 2 words in the subject line, and their decision is whether they're going to read the rest of the subject line today. So it's 2 seconds, 2 words today. Thinking of the subject line, does it clearly answer the question of why someone would want to open your email before the others in their inbox? Does it clearly identify the email's purpose? You can get creative and be clever about how you craft it, but as long as you are alluding to an element in your email's content, the more creative your subject line is or will be. One thing that you might try is to write your email and then go back after you write it and create the subject line. You'll have a much better grasp after that point about what the end goal or purpose is in your email, so ideas may more easily roll off your tongue at that point. But experiment. Different things work for different folks, of course. Your goal is to pull your readers into your email. Can you highlight relevance, usefulness, value, or educational value at the opening of your message to catch their attention? Or you can switch it up and do something unexpected or non-traditional or unusual. So customize the message to match the interest of your audience. If you are segmenting or categorizing your lists, by the way, which is always a good marketing practice, use relevant personal interest information that you've collected over time and position your subject line to match those segmented list members. Also, match the message tone to reflect your brand. Is your brand informative, sassy, funny, quirky? Are you a thought leader? Incorporate those elements of your brand personality into your message in just a few words, and especially into your subject lines. Choose your words carefully, however. The word cloud on the right looks like they highlight some words that we probably use all the time, but maybe those are not the best words to use. Choose words carefully. Look at emails that you've put in your spam folder or end up in your spam folder and see what kind of words they're using. They're probably not the kinds of words that you would want to use. Don't use all capital letters. Don't use a lot of punctuation. Can you use a question mark or a dollar sign or exclamation point? Certainly, but not a bunch of them. A lot of times these will be picked up by internet service providers, email service providers as spam, and then you won't get to get people into their inbox at all. So keep that in mind. One of the good things about the editor that Constant Contact has, there's a button that you can click to do a spam checker, and it'll point out some of the things that may get your email classed as spam. Subject lines. Still on subject lines, size does matter. Keep it clear, keep it clever, keep it short. And as we said in the content earlier, less is more. Same thing applies here. You don't have to have, and people won't read, 100-character subject line. And keep in mind that 30 to 40 characters is about the max that you'll see on most mobile devices. In fact, I think I saw the statistic the other day, 32 is the most that you'll see on an iPhone, and perhaps even fewer, so keep it short. And always keep in mind 51% or more, up to 65% of email is open and read on smartphones. So what about timing? When do I send out my email messages? And really, does it really matter? And how often should I send them out? Best practice is to create a master schedule or calendar to keep up with when that you should send it out, and to make sure that you're not sending them out too often. Keep in mind these points when you're trying to figure out how often you should send something out. Time of day. You got to consider when your audience is going to be there to read it, and test it, test it, test it. I'll give you some idea of how often and what time of day, and then give you a way to test that as well. The best time of day to send an email is dependent upon your audience. Constant Contact analyzed several million emails across 33 different industries to give you a kind of insight into these, but again, it really depends on your audience. If you're looking for a place to start, nearly 2/3 of industries had a best day to send on Mondays, believe it or not, which includes accountants, consultants, financial advisors, and more. Tuesdays came in number 2, by the way. And surprisingly, early morning send times performed best across the board. 5 a.m. to 8 a.m. seemed to be the sweet spot. It used to be 10:30 to 2:30 was promoted as the best time to send. Now we're talking early in the morning. So what could this mean for you? What Constant Contact has found is that it could mean a 6% increase in your open rates. 6%, that's a lot, just by scheduling your email to go out at an optimal time. Again, this is based on analyzing millions and millions of emails from Constant Contact customers. But test to find the sweet spot for your customers. Here's how to do that. Pretty simple, actually. You can figure out when is the right day and the right time for you by doing a couple of tests. First, to figure out what day is best, create an email, take your audience list, your contacts, and split it into 2 pieces. Select 2 days in the week to send out this particular email. Send your email and watch for the best open rate. Send the email to half the list on one of the days and half the list on another day. Send it out, watch for the best open rate. To figure out what time is best, use the same 2 audience lists, create another email, select 2 times on the best day that you found in the previous exercise, send it out, and see which gives you the best open rates. Now, You may have to do this multiple times because there are more than 2 days in the week. So you might do Monday and Wednesday, Tuesday and Thursday, Wednesday and Saturday. You might do this 3 times and do the same thing with time, because you may want to test early morning, late morning, midday, late afternoon, and evening, and do those kinds of tests to see what gets the best results. I'll also tell you that that's results that you get is probably only good for about 6 months, because your customers that you have, your email list, will grow and change over that period of time. One of the other things that you should be doing is encouraging your audience to share your promotions by using social media tools. This is a really effective way that you can grow your reach. Emails that include social sharing buttons increase click-through rates by more than 150%. If you're using Constant Contact, add the share bar outlined here in gold at the top of your emails. It allows your readers to post a link to your email on their social media profiles. I'm working with a customer now. It's a very small social action club. They have very few people, but now they realize that if each of them, if they create an email and then they share that with those people that they know on their social networks, that they can increase the probability of getting in front of people 10,000 times. It's very powerful. Remind your audience to share your promotions. Ask them to like it on Facebook, retweet it on Twitter, or pin it on Pinterest. Ask them to share that information. Add social media buttons that link to your business's social media profiles. The buttons are very nice. They are a very nice visual reminder for your audience to click and follow you online. Your audience has a lot of influence via word of mouth, and you can get your promotions in front of more people, their friends, their family, their fans, if they help you spread the word. Tracking your results, the last piece of harnessing the power of the inbox. Again, keep in mind, if you're not measuring or you're not tracking, you're not marketing. We're going to have another webinar, a whole webinar on this topic a little later in this series. Tracking your results involves knowing what reporting matters, focusing on click-through, not open rates, and using data to make your next decision. 3/4 of small businesses that we spoke to believe reporting and analytics will give them a business advantage. They also believe that this data can help them retain existing customers. 67% of small businesses we surveyed see reports and analytics as tools that they can use to improve retention. And especially in a nonprofit world, that is key. So what metrics are important? I'm going to go through these fairly quickly. Open rate, click-through rate, and shares. Those are the metrics to look at in your reporting to get some insight into the effectiveness of what you're doing. And although open rates are important, click-through rates are even more important. Of these three, looking at click-throughs would be in adjusting what you're doing based on the results of those would be the key thing to look at. You don't want to overlook the what we might call unfun metrics as well. Looking at levels of opt-outs, that's unsubscribes, and looking at bounce rates are also statistics that you want to keep in mind and analyze. Putting it all together, we've looked at a lot of things, but we're going to make it easy for you to remember them. We're going to give you a check sheet of what an ideal email looks like. We've taken all of the best practices, created an email which incorporates those best practices. And when you get this set of slides, you can print that out because we're going to annotate it with the best practices. Keep the preview pane in mind. If you're using Outlook, or other similar emails, this is very important. Maximize that top 2 to 4 inches in your email so that when they look at it in preview, they can make an early, quick decision to read the rest of it. Subject lines. Keep below 50 characters. This one is 8 words and 35 characters. You can still be effective in that. Include your business name in the from name text as well as your personal name. Use the share bar. Very powerful to get your word out to people that you don't know. Use the right template so that you can have it so that it's mobile responsive and mobile friendly, and is the type of template that you would use for the message that you're trying to convey. Place your logo left or center, never on the right side of your email. Use your colors that you use in your branding. Keep your branding uniform throughout all of your communications. Communicate through pictures. Make them clickable. There's one thing I probably did not mention, which was alt text or alternate text. Any images that you put in, while you make them clickable, you can also associate alternate text so that if the image does not show up in the email, that text is there and people can see it as well. 3 or fewer clickable links. This particular message has probably 4 in it, although you can only think about 2. Sign up today is a link. There's a link just above it, which it's kind of hard to see, but it would be a text link that would take a person who clicks on it to this Half Moon's website. Then the main graphic is clickable, and then Half Moon Toga Studio is also clickable, takes them to their website. So communicate through pictures and make them clickable. Again, less is more. Focus on relevant contents. 20 lines of text or fewer is sufficient. Keep the call to action above the scroll line. The sign up today is the call to action. And don't put an inordinate number of links. Again, this one has, if I counted it correctly, 4. More than 3 actually, this actually has 2 that are really pertinent to the statistic. If you do more than 3, the number of click-throughs drops off significantly. So minimize the number of links. 1 is best. More than 3 is probably not something that you want to do. And last but not least, use social media buttons to direct people to your social media venues. I'm going to leave that there just a minute for you to take a look at. Again, when you get the set of slides that I'll send you after the presentation today, then you'll get this checklist and you can print it out. So we've talked about a lot of things today. Best practices to help you grow through effective small business marketing. But let's take a step back. What is small business marketing? It's nurturing relationships. It's delivering on your promises. And it's getting measurable results. Effective email marketing is a tool that can help you do all of these things together. And believe it or not, all this may seem a little detailed, but you can do this because you have an advantage. Your customers love you. They know you. 3 simple steps to get started. Put your contact list together, even if it's just 5 people. Create 1 email campaign, send it out, measure what happens, and do more of what works. With Constant Contact, it's very simple to get started. If you're not already a Constant Contact customer, give me a call today. Send me an email. Get in touch with me. Start a paid email only account, which gives you basically email event, newsletters and announcements, or an email plus account, which gives you access to all the different campaigns that are available. If you do that, you'll receive a gift card equal to your first month's subscription, which is up to $110, by the way, depending on how many contacts that you have. This comes directly from me. You can get up to an hour of my time to help you get started. Be more than happy to do that. And you'll get a free custom mobile responsive, mobile friendly template created for you by Constant Contact. If you're already a Constant Contact customer, by the way, you can also have a responsive template created for just $79 by going to the address that you see there on the screen. Keep in mind that all the packages are no contract, 100% money back guaranteed, toll-free, American-speaking, 24/7 coaching support included. Again, my name is Tom Murphy, and I really appreciate you being here today. Don't forget, I will be sending you an email with a link to a survey. At the end of the survey is a link to a copy of the slides and a copy of this recording. One of the questions in that survey is about the Mercon VIP Club. Please read that and join us. Be a Mercon VIP. Our next event is on Tuesday, April the 19th. Automate your marketing with autoresponders. We'll be doing a combination webinar and seminar at the same time. That should be interesting. So you can come to Winder, Georgia, to the Chamber of Commerce and take advantage of that, or you can join the webinar on that date and we'll send out some more information to you. Again, thanks for being here today, and I will entertain questions at this time, and let me go to those and see how I can help you today. Give me just a second. Early on, you couldn't hear me. I apologize for that. So I'm glad I got that turned on so everybody could hear. Question is, if someone unsubscribes from an email that you send them in Constant Contact, or do they have to unsubscribe every time you send an email? The question is basically, do they only have to unsubscribe one time? If you have a contact in your contact list and you send an email to that contact and they unsubscribe, they are unsubscribed forever unless they come back and resubscribe to your email list. You as a sender cannot resubscribe this particular contact. So they are there as unsubscribed forever. I hope that answers your question, Terrence. Anyone have any other questions that I might answer for them? Again, the inbox is a very powerful weapon in being profitable these days, or especially for nonprofits. I'm associated with a nonprofit, and what we see every day is, as a board member, is that it's getting more and more competitive. So effective email marketing can be a great weapon to gather up those subscribers and donors on an ongoing basis. And of course, for-profits, great for retaining current customers and for growing your network through shares and things. Another question: what if the email has gone to a customer or a subscriber that you sent and they haven't opened it for a week or more? That's a good question. I get emails and I sometimes mark them to read later, and it might be a week later before I ever go back and read them. So many times that doesn't mean anything except that people haven't gotten around to reading the email. But a lot of times that also means that they may have received the email, they're just not interested in it, and it just never gets read. One of the statistics that you can look at in Constant Contact is for a particular person, for someone that has not opened your email, is how often that happens. And you can then cut down who you are sending them to so that they're more effective. Thanks for the question. The follow-on question to that is, okay, if you send out an email and they don't open that one, can you send out the next one? Absolutely. Unless they unsubscribe, what you're trying to do is to keep top of mind or keep in front of them, then that continuing sending to them keeps your name in front of them. And the interesting thing about email, even if they don't read the email, if you do the subject line and the from line correctly, they see your name and your organization, even if they don't read the full email. So yes, continue to send even if they don't open. Now if you look at them, at their statistics, and they haven't opened the last 10 that you sent out, that may mean a couple of things. One, they're not interested in what you're sending out, or maybe give them a call. Find out if there's something else they would be interested in that would be of more interest to them to receive from you. Question, is this webinar being recorded? And if so, will we be provided a means to watch it again? And the answer to that, Keith, is yes, it is being recorded. The email that I send out to you either later this afternoon or tomorrow morning will have a link again to the survey. At the end of the survey, there'll be a link to the recording. So I appreciate it, and although you may not have heard the first couple of slides, it was being recorded, so you'll hear that on the recording. Thank you very much for the question. Any other questions that you may have for today? If not, again, I thank you for your time. I'll stay here for another 5 minutes, and if anyone else comes up with a question they'd like to ask, I'll be here and be happy to answer it. Or you can send it to my email address or text me if you would like, and I'll be happy to address that as well. Again, have a great rest of the day, and keep in constant contact.